Hello and welcome to another episode of Talk West Ham, where we give you the control. You ring up, you pick the topic, and you tell us exactly what you want to say. I, myself and Gonzo, will do our best to have a conversation with you. We've got our first caller on the line, but before we get to him, how are you doing tonight, Gonzo?
I'm not too bad, thank you very much. Fortunately, I didn't see Aston Villa's whooping of Newcastle, so I'm not up to date with that. But I do believe we've slipped down the table into the Never Land, so to speak.
Yes, we are. We're now 17th in the league. But anyway, you'll hear more from myself and Gonzo as we go on. We'll be interacting with the live chat plenty tonight. So if you're watching us live on YouTube, you're watching us right now, get in the live chat because we will be interacting with you in just a bit. But let's move on to our first caller. James is on the line. James, how are you doing tonight?
I'm not too bad. A bit frustrated after watching the Villa game, watching what could be us. But yeah, again, how are you doing?
I'm not too bad, thank you for asking. What would you like to discuss tonight, James?
All right, so I think it's inevitable. Pellegrini's got to go. It's just a matter of when, let's be honest. I guess my question for you, both of you, would be who would you replace him with straight away and why?
Gonzo?
Oh, I didn't know. I didn't know we were answering questions. Well, welcome to the show, to everybody, to James as well. I think I've got to make a decision instantly, and the decision's been made that he's got to go, as you rightly say. I was listening to what Geo was saying in his video as he did it last night, of course, didn't he? But I listened to it this morning, and he was talking about the Chelsea game in particular, and about not really wanting to bring in a manager just yet because it might be he's going to lose. Whoever comes in is going to lose. And Geo mentioned Steve Potts. And actually, I don't think that's a bad idea at all. But I don't care whether it's Steve Potts or not. I do like the idea of the caretaker manager coming in to take the flack off of the main manager, whoever the main choice may be. And I think that is very, very important. I'm not ducking the issue of who the main manager should be, but I do think we have to bring somebody in now. I think the wrong decision is to leave Pellegrini in place for these two games because it does absolutely nothing. I've seen people have been sending me emails and print screens of some article. I don't know where it's come from, where there's been some leaks from the training ground that all is not, let's say, as professional as it maybe should be at the training ground. That's got me worried. I just don't think the guy can stay in place for any longer. We seem to be pinning all our hopes on Fabianski coming in. So let's get a caretaker manager coming in. I don't care if it's the under 23s. People have mentioned Terry Wesley. He can't. You can't ask him to give up his job unless we're going to offer him the permanent job. So Steve Potts, anybody like that, that's got to happen now. And then, but in the meantime, we arrange for the new guy to come in.
What do you think, James? What's your opinion?
Well, after listening to your thing again last night, I think you've made a good shout with the Chris Hughton. I'll be brutally honest. I think that could be a really good shout. I think one thing we massively lack now is just it's painful watching Pellegrini on the sidelines now, isn't it? He looks like he's already retired and gone off to Benidorm. It just looks like he just doesn't care. And I think someone like Chris Hughton, he could at least instill. So I feel like he, especially what he did with Brighton as well for such a while. I feel like you look at the players and they need a change. They look like they need a change. They look like they don't even talk, you know? And I feel like someone who's a bit more, I guess, youthful, I suppose, in that respect. He's still got some good credentials with that. And again, in terms of the financial side of things, let's be realistic here. It's West Ham. Who are they going to go for? They'll go for the cheapest option available. I feel like he could be a really good shout. But again, it's just a matter of when, because with the Chelsea game, you're going to lose, so it doesn't matter. I just don't know when would be the right time at this point.
Well, I was just about to ask you, the question is when, and if the question is when, it's sort of like, well, why are they not doing it now? Why are they waiting till after Chelsea, James? I mean, do you think would be best just to get rid of him now? I mean, what's the benefit? I struggle to see Pellegrini's motivation here. I struggle to see. You're now relying on Pellegrini's professionalism and Pellegrini wanting to keep his job at West Ham, because if either of them are in question, what's his motivation for Stamford Bridge? Why would he change it? Why would he do something different? Because he knows now we're in this limbo thing. He knows he's now 2 defeats away from the sack, and he's going to be 2 defeats away from the sack for the rest of the season. Even if he wins 3 games, he's still probably 2 defeats away. So do you understand why Pellegrini's been kept on, James, or do you think we need to get rid of him now?
I think what we as the fans think and what the players think are probably on the same level now, to be honest. I mean, it's all well and good saying, you know, the fans think one thing and it's different being there at the training ground and at the stadium each time. But I think we're all on the same level. I think he's just got to go now, get it over and done with. The players will respect the fact that change is being made at a higher level. I think that's the point we're at now. You know, I think you can see that on the pitch. I mean, to be honest, the game the other day, I mean, I'll be honest, from this point until now, I've thought it's the players. There's no drive. They look like they just don't turn up. We know that's been an issue over the last 6-7 games compared to the start of the season. But I think after watching it the other day, they did. I'll say they gave effort, but I mean, in comparison to recent games, they definitely gave more effort. And I think it just put more spotlight on. They don't trust the manager anymore. I think they're just as miffed that no tactical changes, no formation, no lineup changes have been made. Like, I feel like just get it out of the way. I think just do it now because they'll respond to that just as well as the fans will, and then the atmosphere will be better. And I think it just goes into the same collective, you know.
Do you know when I was talking about Chris Hughton, I was sort of predicting Chris Hughton rather than wishing for Chris Hughton. Are you wishing for him, James? Because earlier when I was listening to you, I was thinking you were maybe behind the idea of getting Hughton in. And if you are, fair enough. Are you thinking as a job until the end of the season or like a 2-3 year deal?
I think that's where it gets complicated because we've been in such a transition stage, but then we've done that for the last year, 2, 3 years at this point now, especially since the purse strings have been loosened to an extent. And I think because now nothing's been done, you look at the players on the pitch and you look at the value and look at how much talent there is on that pitch, and you think, how are we where we are? And that's getting frustrating. And I think even look at Haller. He doesn't. He looks like he's wondering why he signed. And you think you're spending that kind of money on a player. I mean, did you ever watch some of the games of him playing at Frankfurt? Oh man, good lord! Like he's not. I feel frustrated even watching him. You know, he kind of mumbles around the pitch now, just thinking that I'm not in the right squad. There's nothing going on for me here at all. He's being plunked in with no service. There's just nothing there for him. And you look around the pitch, and it's exactly the same story with a number of them. And you're right in saying we're just relying on Fabianski. And I think that's at the point where you're relying on your goalkeeper from Swansea to save the team and possibly save them from relegation. It's just drastic change needs to be made, and I think it needs to be done over a period of time in the same process we've been doing. You know, you can't just instill someone to get us through to the end of the season, because at this rate we are going to be fighting a relegation battle. And you think with what we've spent and what we've been trying to develop the squad into, just to tie up another 6 months, and then what happens next season? Another 6 months? What happens then? You need to have a drastic change. And Pellegrini, we thought he was the right man. It clearly hasn't worked out. Okay, suffer the consequence, move on, get it done. Just get it done as soon as possible, I think. Try again, try a new tactic over the next mid to long term, you know.
I completely agree. Gonzo, is there anything you'd like to add or any questions for James?
Oh, I mean, well, there's so much to cover there. Not just James has covered so many different points there. Obviously at some point we need to speak about the candidates ourselves at some point, regardless of whether James is on the line or not. What I would say, and what I just scribbled down then, was just James said we're going to find ourselves in a relegation battle. Well, we're in one, and we're in one because it depends how you look at it. Is only being in the bottom three a relegation battle? Well, I would consider anybody mathematically involved in relegation. So I've always considered relegation to be those 6 places, because if anybody can fall in to the relegation places at a game or two's notice, then you're in a relegation battle. Can we, if results don't go our way within the next couple of games, go into relegation position? Absolutely. Do we have a form to suggest that we won't? No, we don't. Look at the teams we're playing. The likelihood is that by the time we face Arsenal possibly or Southampton, we are going to be in the relegation places. That is a high likelihood. If you don't think that's going to happen, then you've not been paying attention to the previous few results. So we're in that relegation battle now, and obviously that then impacts. What do we find? We find ourselves with a Groundhog Day, because the appointment of Houghton on a short-term contract is what happened with David Moyes. That's what happened. We found ourselves drifting towards the bottom of the division. Moyes came in a short-term contract to firefight. It is Groundhog Day. It's 2 steps forward and 2 steps back constantly.
Does it concern you, James, that the official unofficial is that how we're going to refer to things now, Gonzo? The official unofficial or the unofficial official? It's one of the two, isn't it? The unofficial official word is that Pellegrini's here to stay for the Chelsea and the Wolves game, and if he loses both of them, then he will get the sack. James, do you think it's risky, essentially, the board are deciding almost to waive those 2 games? I mean, we are now, I think we're 2 points, sorry. I think we're 2 points outside the relegation places. We're sitting in 17. And it sounds like the board are essentially saying, well, we'll just forget the next 2 fixtures. We'll accept defeats. And, well, pray that Fabianski comes back ASAP. Is it a bit risky, James?
I think when you really look at it, look at teams like Southampton. I mean, they're picking up. I'm not saying picking up their massive points, but look at their playing style. They've played some decent teams recently. Yeah, with the exclusion of the 9-0 hammering at fucking Leicester. With the exclusion of that, they're playing decent football, and teams like that are now going to be a challenge, and they shouldn't have even been a challenge. And now we find ourselves thinking, oh yeah, okay, we'll write off the Chelsea game, write off the Arsenal game. All right, maybe. But it's those other games that are frightening. And I think that's the point we're at, where you've just got to look at it and go, something has to be done now, because if we lose to those kind of teams now, at this point, there's not even a point in saying there's a relegation battle. Just accept we're relegated. That's as simple as that. I think we've really reached that point. There's just no. I think as well, it's worth mentioning, like, any manager that comes in now, whether it's short term to the end of the season to tie us over, long term, I think the issue is, or rather the good point, is that any manager comes in is going to look at that squad and think there's something there to work with. And we all know there is, as fans and as the club do. There's so much potential on that pitch now. And I think that's why it's frustrating. It was a different level of frustration a couple of seasons ago. We had the stale squad, random signings that made no sense. But now you've got essentially what is a thought-out squad. And we've seen the potential of that. We've seen the potential of that in those first couple of games in the season. We saw that, and we were all, let's be honest, we were all watching it going, I could get used to watching this. This is all right. This is worth turning up for. This is brilliant. I can get behind. Everyone's getting behind it. It's fantastic. And I just don't understand how. I don't think anyone. I think it's more frustration that no one understands how we even got to this point. What went wrong? And I think now we've reached a point. We all know what went wrong. Nothing then changed. He found one thing, stuck to it, but other teams are smarter than that. Other managers are smarter than that. You adapt, you adjust to other. It's basic 101. Honestly, a chair leg in a Betway jacket would be more motivational than watching Pellegrini on the sidelines at this stage.
Quite. Anyway, James, listen, that's all we've got time for, but thank you very much for your call. Much appreciated. Great points made. Lovely having you on. Hope you join us again in the future.
Thanks, James.
Hey, guys.
Cheers. Take care, James. He makes a good point, Gonzo. He makes a good point about Southampton. I know of a Southampton fan. I've got a WhatsApp group that I'm involved in, and there's a Southampton fan in it, a season ticket holder, and he put up the next 4 fixtures. Now, this is off the top of my head, but they've got Newcastle, Norwich, Watford, and then us. Now, he was saying they need 9 points from that, essentially, and I looked at it and I thought, you know what? I think you're going to get 10. I looked at it, and I did. I looked at it and I thought, this is what do you know how we were saying we've had our easy games? Southampton are now coming up to their easy games. They've had their difficult ones over it, and they're in touching distance of us. I think we're going to be in the bottom 3 on Saturday. If Norwich plays Saturday, it all depends on who Norwich play as well. But there's a damn good chance that we're going to be sitting 18th at the full-time whistle at Stamford Bridge if Norwich play at the same time as us. I'm concerned that the board are almost accepting defeats in the next 2 games before they do something, rather than doing something now and almost rolling the dice a little bit. I just feel like they've decided we'll just get beat the next two. What are you trying to? Are you waiting for more reasons to justify the sacking of a manager who's not won in the last 8 games and is conceding 9 goals in the last 3 games? I think I read something earlier. We've conceded 3 goals in our last 3 Premier League games. The last team to do that was a year and a half ago. That was West Ham under David Moyes. But anyway, have you got the live chat open?
The live chat is open. It's going.
Fantastic.
Yeah,
right, live chat. Get your comments in. Gonzo's going to start reading them out. Give us comments tonight. Comments, not just questions. We saved that for the cup of tea. Get your comments in. Your thoughts on the latest manager situation. Get your comments in. Gonzo will start reading them out while I go and invite the next guest to the call. So if you hear a random voice in the next couple of minutes, you'll know who it is. Well, you won't know who it is, but you'll find out who it is. Gonzo, over to you, my friend.
Yeah, I mean, you can tell how dismayed people are, because Paul says play the under-23 team instead. I totally understand what he's saying. Obviously, you can't do that, but I think he's saying just pluck some people out that will care. Jack is so depressed he thinks he might support Millwall now, and so things are getting very, very bad. Robert Bryan, thanks for typing in, mate. He said not supporting Haller with players around him is laughable. I think that's a great idea, to have a tactical, to buy somebody as good, to have your record signing and not have a tactical plan to put around someone that costs 45 million is silly. Indeed, we are blessed by Mike Manera in the chat. Welcome, Mike, to you. And Victor Fenn says, we need players who will put a tackle in, not players like Anderson who are worried about getting their shorts dirty. I think if a new manager does come in, I think we're going to find ourselves with a tackler in midfield. And obviously the Moyes link is very, very interesting. What would he do with Declan Rice? Of course, David Moyes was dipping Declan Rice into the team. Will he come in and say, oi, you're not a defensive midfielder, you're a defender? That gives it a very, very interesting dynamic. Andy's in the chat. He says, give Holland a go. This is all going on, Gio. A lot of people want to see the under-23s given a game, and a lot of people want to see people associated with the club, even on a caretaker basis, given the job. There's lots of chat about Di Canio, lots of stuff. But look, people aren't happy, mate. I've yet to read a comment, unless I've missed one while I was drinking my tea, where anybody's saying keep Pellegrini. I think he'll come good, and I think the silence and the tumbleweed is deafening, mate.
Yeah, quite. I think that people can tell it's the end for Pellegrini. My frustration now lies with the fact that we're not doing anything, the fact that we're just conceding points for the next 2 games, and the reason people want to see the under-23s is because they're fed up seeing the same old every week. They're fed up seeing Anderson start the game, get subbed off at half-time after not doing much in the first half. They're fed up with seeing Yarmolenko being ushered onto his right foot and not being able to use it. They almost want a bit of mystery, and I think the under-23s is their let's see a little bit of mystery. I think if you were to shake the team up a bit without the under-23s, I think it would be acceptable. But the problem is, we don't really have players to do that anymore. You sort of look at it and think, well, you could bring in Ayeti, but you're not gonna, are you? You can start Antonio at Chelsea, but that's pretty much as far as it goes. Sanchez has maybe got half a claim to start now after coming on, and Rice did well at centre back. Issa Diop suspended for the Chelsea game, by the way, so there's a change forced upon Pellegrini. Balbuena's obvious one, but you do wonder if he's going to consider putting Rice in there. People are just desperate. They're desperate to see something that's not 4-2-3-1 with the same players that we've been seeing every week.
Mate, I find it's a really, really tough one. The thing that worries me is what James was talking about and what you were talking about earlier. My worry is that the board's, the owners' thinking is so muddled that they are almost relying on these 2 defeats happening, as you suggested earlier, that we then find ourselves in the bottom 3. Almost, you've got your nightmare scenario where Pellegrini almost draws one of them, and then it makes the board's thinking even more muddled because they're relying on the fact that he's doing it. I mean, the amount of people in the chat who are saying "dead man walking" is crazy. So we know it. He must know it.
Well, that's what I was trying to say earlier. What's his motivation for Saturday? What's his motivation? Because he knows his time's up. Pellegrini's son is on Twitter. Okay, Pellegrini's son is on Twitter now. He's not called Juan Pellegrini on Twitter. I'm not going to say what his Twitter at is, but
or his name.
It's easy to find out his name. You can Google it, can't you? But I'm not going to say what his Twitter at is, okay? But he's on Twitter, right? And he follows plenty of West Ham accounts. He's going to be seeing people fed up with his dad. This is going to be getting back to his old man. I've got no doubt about it. And I'm not starting to feel sorry for Pellegrini because he's well paid, and much of these problems and issues have been brought on by himself, like continuing playing Roberto and stuff. But like it's inevitable. What's going to happen is inevitable. I think everyone knows it, and it's just, why have we got a guy now? We're now asking a guy to get the team up for Saturday, which he struggled to do in the previous few weeks. Get the team up for Saturday when you're going to get sacked.
I feel sorry for him, Gio. I feel sorry for him. We get a tiny little. I mean, unfortunately, we got all the lovely people in the chat. We get a tiny little view of sometimes of trolling on the internet. We see it. We get a bit of stick sometimes. I can only imagine what it's like for him. I feel sorry for him, but that doesn't mean I want him as our manager anymore. I would. He's a rich man, wealthy beyond his wildest dreams, but his family still live back in Chile. I wouldn't blame him at all to go back to Chile, to go back to his family and to spend his millions and just have a lovely time back at home. I wouldn't begrudge him that. I'd have no ill feeling at all. I do feel sorry for him if he is a dead man walking to spend those last 2 weeks in a training ground where he's not wanted, where his bosses don't want him, where his players don't believe in his tactics anymore, where the fan base don't believe in him. I can feel sorry for him in that. But also, not so sorry enough that I don't want him to get the sack. I think you'd be doing him a favour. I really think you put him out of his misery by getting a sack. So you're right, his son will read this stuff. It can't be a nice environment to work in. It's easy to think because somebody's a millionaire that they're somehow impervious or immune to all the stick. He's not going to be. He's going to have feelings. Everyone's got feelings. He's going to have feelings like anybody else. So, but he's got to go, Gio. He gets his payoff, and we need to do what's best for the football club.
Yeah, I don't know why. Well, I think they're almost waiting to see if they can agree to terms with a new manager before they pull the trigger on Pellegrini. I don't think they want to be seen in limbo, but that's where you just got to give someone like Steve Potts a gig for the next two jobs, say like the next two games, sorry. And then even if the new manager comes in, just leave Potts in charge, let the new manager come in and feel the players out, let him have the training sessions with the players. Don't let him have the 2 defeats. They are going to be 2 defeats on his record and start off on a negative. He might fancy the Wolves one, but it's just baffling. It doesn't do anyone any good. Nobody's winning in this situation. Pellegrini's not winning. The players aren't winning. The fans aren't winning. The board aren't winning. Who's winning in this situation right now we're in? Because there's absolutely nobody. Nobody's coming out of this with any positivity. Nobody's coming out of this with any credit. Everybody's just in limbo. We're all just hanging around waiting to see what happens. I woke up this morning. When I picked up my phone, someone in the WhatsApp group said, "Has he gone yet?" And the thing is, that's going to be the question every single morning from now on. Every morning.
They might have meant you, Gio, out of the WhatsApp group.
No, they didn't. They did not mean me because I put a 7-1 winner in that group chat tonight, so I'm pretty popular tonight in the group chat. But the thing is, though, that's going to be the question, isn't it? If you go away for social media, if you go to your job, and you go on your phone at lunch and you put your phone away at 1 o'clock and you pick it up at 5 o'clock when you finish, your first thing you're going to think of is he gone yet? And no, he's not. He's going to be here until Chelsea. The thing is, this isn't the first manager it's happened to, is it? It's so similar to the Slaven Bilic thing. When Slaven Bilic is coming to an end, he's got 2 games, lose the next 2 games, and you're out. But this is what I was saying last night. Now, I don't think we're going to win at Chelsea. I think we've got no chance. But let's just say we did pull off a miracle. Then what? You can't get rid of him, can you?
No, but that's what I was saying earlier.
Like, he's here. You're stuck with him then. You've then got a manager you don't want, and you can't sack him because you just won a game of football you didn't expect him to. Sullivan and Gold are practically betting with their manager on Chelsea and Wolves to beat us in the next 2 games. They're basically gambling. Maybe they've put £1 million on it and that's going to pay Pellegrini's compensation or something. I don't know. But it doesn't really make sense. I don't understand. I struggle to think of 2 reasons why They've not sacked him yet.
Well, I'll tell you what is fantastic news is the finest name I've ever read in the whole of my life is in our live chat. We've got somebody in our live chat called Sebastian Tickleberry. That's a great name. That's a cracking name. I'd like to think that's his real name. I hope that's his real name. Have we got a caller lined up?
I've finally just managed to invite him, but he's not accepted it yet. So
I don't blame him.
Yeah, maybe he listened to the first one. No, maybe he listened to the first one and thought, I don't really fancy that, to be honest with you. To be honest, it took me a while to work out how to use the Skype thing. This thing's still new to me, doing bits and pieces. To go to the live chat, read out some comments.
Read out some comments. I'm afraid Sebastian's has gone. I was so entranced by his name, I forgot to read what he had to say. So sorry about that, Sebastian. Super Stubby says he'll be here for Chelsea. That's what's so frustrating and typical about our owners. Andy Walsh says he can see Pellegrini will be here until the transfer window shuts. You cynical old what's it, Andy? I hear what you're saying. He thinks there's going to be no money for any potentials. Terence said, why doesn't Pellegrini stand on a touchline and shout at his players? I just don't think it's in his character, Terence. He's a quiet, unassuming man. That's what we hired. He's not going to change now, that's for sure.
Right, sorry to interrupt, Gonzo. I think we've got our next caller on the line. We should have Michael with us. Michael, can you hear us okay?
Yeah, I can hear you loud and clear.
Perfect. How are you doing tonight? Yeah, we can hear you good. How are you doing tonight, Michael?
Yeah, not too bad. Obviously frustrated as everyone else is, but apart from that, not too bad, I suppose.
Well, on this show, Michael, we allow you to vent your frustration if you like. We get our opportunity every video we do. This is your opportunity. What would you like to vent your frustration about?
Well, I mean, obviously you guys covered it, I think, in the last question in terms of, Pellegrini supposedly being given 2 games to save his job, and it's basically a repeat of the Bilic saga all over again. But what I actually wanted to ask you guys was, obviously, there's the rumours on Twitter the past couple of days have obviously been, I've seen 2 names mentioned, that being Sean Dyche and Eddie Howe. Now, obviously, I don't think anyone's expecting the board to actually pay money to get those managers in. But for example, just in case, in a hypothetical situation, they would. Out of those 2, what would your guys' preferences be? Out of those 2,
Gonzo?
Eddie Howe by a significant margin, I've got to say, and without taking up, because this is your time, Michael. To be fair, I like pace. I like pace in the team. I'm a bit of a scratch record with it, and I think Eddie Howe gives pace and width. That's how I like my football. That's why, maybe not more recent. That's why I prefer out of title challengers. I prefer Liverpool's brand of football than Manchester City's. I like fast, attacking, wide football. Basically, I'd go for Eddie Howe, and I also think Eddie Howe's got his finger on the pulse in terms of dipping into the lower divisions and bringing in sort of British players. And I think if you do that, maybe you don't challenge for European Cup, but we're not doing that anyway. I do think you sort of, if you have you've only got to watch Sheffield United last night. I think if you've got an underbelly, let's say, of British players, you don't get the lacklustre performance of a team out on the pitch. You really don't understand what a derby against Tottenham means. So for that reason, I would go for Eddie Howe, because he's Sean Dyche, but with a bit more pace and slightly better football.
I'm on the fence between the 2, but who do you prefer, Michael?
I've been a really big fan of Eddie Howe for a long time as well. I think he's, in my mind, a future England manager. I rate him that much, and I'm surprised that he's still at Bournemouth after all these years. Because I was having this conversation with someone at work earlier, and it was just like, I think people don't really realise the magnitude of the job that he's done at Bournemouth. Like, people look at Bournemouth now and they're just accepted as an established Premier League club, which I think if you'd have gone back like 10 years ago, that would have been unthinkable, but I think the job that he's done with the sort of budget that he's had and getting the best out of those players season after season, I mean, to the fact that Callum Wilson's now, a regular in the England squad, and the brand of football that he plays as well, I think is the sort of football that we want over at West Ham. I think Sean Dyche would do a good job. I think he has the ability to mix it up sometimes, but I also think, it will be a lot of that sort of Sam Allardyce-esque sort of football that we, not everyone was a fan of before he'd start actually trying to get some attacking play involved. But I think out of the 2, Eddie Howe would be the one for me, and certainly not Chris Hughton or David Moyes, which I've seen mentioned earlier today as well.
Michael, Paul in the chat has suggested you sound rather like Eddie Howe. Is
Oh.
that you? Is that you, Eddie? This is why you're saying Eddie Howe is better than Dyche.
Well, there's ways of putting your name out there, isn't there? No, I'm not Eddie Howe, unfortunately. Only on Football Manager, but not in real life.
But Michael, you sort of hinted that you don't think we'd pay the compensation to get Eddie Howe, which is fair enough. But let's part that a second. Do you think we could attract Eddie Howe? Let's just say that we had a deal done with Bournemouth. Do you think we could convince Eddie Howe to leave Bournemouth and come to West Ham United?
I mean, obviously it'd be difficult given the situation they're currently in. However, I think without being overly biased, which I know is going to come across that way, but I do, I think West Ham are a much bigger club than Bournemouth, and I think if you compare the two squads of players on paper, I think we've certainly got more potential to achieve more than what Bournemouth have. I think Bournemouth are kind of at their sort of limit in terms of what they could really achieve, maybe a cup run in a not so distant future. But I think as well for Eddie Howe, if he really, it depends on what his ambitions are. If he wants to really prove himself and become a top manager, I think eventually he's going to have to take that risk and make the move from Bournemouth to a club like us, like Everton, for example. I know they've been linked with him recently, and then that would, potentially give him a route into potentially being the next Arsenal or Tottenham or Chelsea manager or something like that. So I think, and the same goes for Sean Dyche as well. I think there's only so long and so much you can achieve at one club. If you look at Moyes, for example, obviously he was at Everton for so long, achieved so much, and then he did take that risk of going to United. Obviously it didn't work out, but I think for a club like us, it would be a good middle ground between the top six clubs and, the sort of tier of club that Bournemouth are in at the moment.
And until we can make up our dream list of managers to replace Pellegrini, we almost need a vacant position by Pellegrini. What do you make of the current situation surrounding Manuel at the moment?
I feel like I think I said this to someone on Twitter earlier, I feel like I've gone back in time 2 years because it seems to be the Bilic saga all over again. I mean, because I saw today, I think it was X said on Twitter that apparently he's safe for now, but David Moyes and Chris Hughton are two main candidates, and it's like, well, so we've got a manager in, so we got basically someone who wasn't deemed good enough to take Brighton forward, and someone who wasn't even deemed good enough to take us forward are the main candidates for a job that isn't even available yet. We've been through this before, and I think it's obviously Pellegrini. I was patient with him, but I'm now in the side that I want him gone because I can't see this getting any better. It looks like the players have given up and they don't really want to play for him anymore. But the way we're going about it again, it's just. I think it's like Gonzo said earlier. It's taking 2 steps forward, and then if we go with someone like Keane, it'll be taking 2 massive steps back as well. So it's incredibly. It's not surprising, but just as frustrating as it was when it happened when Bilic was in charge. So.
I think I know your answer, but I need to ask someone. You've got your fingers on your pulse of social media clearly, so you'd be aware that part of the reason beyond keeping Pellegrini currently is that Fabianski will come back and sort of turn things around for him. I mean, what's your thoughts on the board pinning their hopes on Fabianski coming back?
I'd say it's entirely feasible that would be the reason, knowing our board. It's ridiculous because I think you can't just look at the. I fail to see how any three of them could look at the past few weeks and the past performances, Spurs, Burnley, Everton, and go, well, we definitely would have played better football and scored more goals if we had Fabianski in goal. Like it just doesn't work like that. You can't. As much as terrible as Roberto has been, and he has been terrible. I mean, I watched the Spurs goals back today, and he arguably should have saved at least 2 of them, arguably all 3. But you can't just look at him and go, well, he's definitely the reason that Felipe Anderson won't take anyone on. He's the reason that Masuaku can't get in the 18 anymore. He's the reason that Jack Wilshere apparently has ceased to exist now. Like, it's. Do you know what I mean? It just seems ridiculous to go that as soon as Fabianski comes back in, that's it, problem solved. I don't understand how. I mean, if that's what happens, then fair enough. Obviously, David Sullivan knows more than me about football, but I can't see that being the case. So,
not where I'm sat, Michael or Eddie, should I say? No, I'm not so sure, mate.
Well, you make perfectly good points, but I like the one about Anderson. Fabianski goes not going to make Anderson take his man on. I like that one. I might use that one in a future video or something. If anyone's not made it 40 minutes into this video, I've got away with it. It's fine. No one's going to know where it got from. But is there anything else you'd like to add before we'll leave you be to enjoy the rest of your evening?
I think I would just say that I would like to add that to inject a small amount of optimism, which I know is quite difficult to do at the moment. Looking at the league table, I think we are only 5 points off of the sort of 8th, 7th, 6th places. And I think if we now with Pellegrini in charge, I think it's unlikely we'll obviously make up that difference. But I think if, and it's a big if, I think if the board did get the next appointment right, it's, there's a long way enough to go in the season, and teams will drop form as well as us. That those points, that gap could be closed. But like I said, it's a big if. But I think it's not entirely 100% doom and gloom just yet. More 90% doom and gloom as opposed to 100%. So that's all I'd add.
Just you sort of. I think we know your answer here, but what happens if they did appoint David Moyes or Chris Hughton for you?
I think it would be. I think it would go exactly how it went last time. Like I think Chris Hughton's a very nice bloke by all accounts. Everyone says he's one of the nicest blokes in football, but I don't look at Chris Hughton as the sort of bloke to get a team riled up and ready and motivated to go out and perform on the pitch. And I just think we'll, trod through the season. I generally think with the players we've got, there's individual players in there that make us a bit too good to go down. By me, we'll probably scrap 17th, and I also think there are quite a few teams worse than us this year. But we'll just sort of plod along through the season, take like a bottom half finish, bottle the cups again, and then we'll have this conversation in the summer of like, well, we need to find a manager who's forward thinking and plays good football, and then they might spend 70 to 80 million, and then we'll be here again the following season. So it would be an endless cycle of disappointment as usual.
Fantastic, mate. Listen, thank you very much for calling. An absolute pleasure. Hope you join us again in future. Take care. Enjoy the rest of your evening.
Thanks guys. Cheers.
Gonzo Dan B just made a tasty comment in the live chat. Can you see it? He says, surely Noble has to take a bit of responsibility here. How many times is the team down tools for the manager while he has been captain?
No, I think Noble's swimming against the tide in what's gone on at West Ham over the last few years. I think he's really had his work cut out. It was Michael had a lovely cynical way about him, and he made some lovely sound bites there. I like the cut of his jib, actually, a lot of the stuff that he was saying. And if you just listen to him, there was a cynicism to his words which suggests we're in a cycle of Groundhog Days and just everything seems to be repeating itself. And I think that certainly applies to Mark Noble there, where he has seen so many managers come and go. He has seen so many managers maybe lose dressing rooms or whatever the case may be, but he's certainly seen a lot of teammates. A penny for Mark Noble's thoughts. A penny? Not a penny. I'll pay $9.99 actually for Mark Noble's memoirs, his honest memoirs, where he gives an honest appraisal of his best and his worst teammates over the time that he's been captain. And I think if we were to ever get those memoirs, which we won't because he's a classy guy, and we were actually found out what some of these players are like, how little they care for West Ham, how little effort they put in, not just on the pitch but in the training ground, I'm sure there'd be some absolute eye-watering stories. I actually think he probably does try quite a lot. I think he probably does try and stem the tide. This article that I saw earlier, I managed to skim it, and somebody showed me it as a screenshot, and I've actually messaged them back and said, excuse me, where is this from? I can't see. It's about the training ground. It's about Mark Noble doing exactly what I'm talking about, and about trying to rouse everybody, because perhaps the training's a little bit lackluster. The team aren't eating together, and there's lots of things going on in there. And I think Mark Noble learned from Kevin Nolan, who was also a very, very good captain. I think he knows what he's doing, but there's not enough Mark Nobles around. There's not enough people around him to help him get his message across. When, let's be fair, it's not just a 25-man official Premier League team. It's it's the coaching staff, it's just everybody that's around the club. It's probably not 25 people. There's probably 60, 70 people in that training ground, and I think it's a lot for one man to do if the ethos of the club and the philosophy of the team at the moment under Pellegrini is very, very relaxed, albeit very nice. I think it's hard for him to drive and motivate 70 odd people. I really do.
Yeah, I don't blame Noble at all, really. I think it's listen, it swings your mind about. So if you're going to say, well, Mark Noble's got something to do with the manager's failing or whatever, well, then you've got to also then credit Mark Noble with the last season at Upton Park. You've got to credit Mark Noble with last season. You've got to credit Mark Noble for us surviving relegation every time he's captain when it looks a bit rough at times. Because you can't just look at the negative sides while he's been captain. You've got to look at the good sides as well. In this day and age, especially with Premier League footballers the way they are, it's tougher now to hold a dressing room than it would have been 20 years ago. And I think he does that well. And the one thing that I will say at our club, bar one or two, the youngsters are all quite grounded as well, which is I sort of look at as a captain's role, almost to make sure that when they are coming through, they are breaking into the first team, that their feet stay on the floor. And that is Mark Noble's job, in my opinion, to put his arm around him, to nurture him into the first team, but also make sure he doesn't get ahead of himself. Vaisty and Ghana, Ben Johnson, we've not had any hints of ego or too big for their boots type thing like you do see at other clubs. And I think I know everybody's screaming Reece Oxford at me here, but Reece Oxford made his debut under Slav, and Kevin Nolan was still at the club then, if I'm correct. So Nolan was still the captain when Oxford made his debut, but that's just a one-off. Apart from that, I don't think you can name another youngster that's got too big-headed, and that's Noble's role as well. And if anything, Pellegrini should be grateful he's got Mark Noble there on the pitch screaming at him, because someone needs to do it, and it's not the geezer in the dugout at the minute.
To be fair, Dan has just quantified his statement, and I do appreciate his question. And he wasn't. Yeah, I mean, we've answered more than he suggested, if you know what I mean. But it was a good opportunity to have our say on Noble.
Post-match review said we need a manager who will kick us up the arse. We definitely have the personnel, and when you see stats such as we're the team who runs the least in the league, that is unacceptable. Did you see that?
Yeah, that is a terrible. I'll tell you what. Every match we run least, the amount of shots we concede, the whole lot, and I think about all these stats, and there's been 3 or 4 different sets of shocking stats, and then I look at that and then I see those comments about Fabianski coming in his Superman pants with his cape and saving us all, and it does make it all the more ridiculous. What do you think he's going to do? Well, I think it's Antonio as well. So while Fabianski might be wearing his Superman pants, I think Antonio might have his Batman ones on or something. I think the combination of the two will somehow allow Pellegrini to, if he's still here when Fabianski's back, he will be able to shithouse a couple of results. He will be able to scrape some points together a little bit where he might not have done. He's almost forced to change formation a bit with Antonio as well, because on Saturday Antonio come on and it looked like we were sticking with the 4-3-3 formation. I think Antonio almost took it upon himself to go stand next to Sebastian Allaire, because there was nobody doing the Snodgrass was almost running the left side, but there was no one really doing the right hand side because Antonio was standing in the middle quite a lot. So I think Pellegrini's lucky that those two are coming back. Luke Claxton, I think the main problem is Roberto. He gives the defence no confidence. If the defence have no confidence, it means the attacking players are scared to lose the ball and take players on. Not sure about the attacking players bit. The thing is, Roberto's shocking and he's terrible, and something needs to be done, and he is one of the massive problems. But we were conceding, is another one of the stats. We were conceding this sort of number of shots last season as well, which is why our goalkeeper was player of the season. He performed above and beyond the Call of Duty, and there weren't many, maybe because De Gea wasn't in form last season, maybe Alisson or Edison or somebody like that. There were not many goalkeepers in the Premier League were better than Fabianski last season. What's happened is now we've gone from having a good goalkeeper to having a crap one, but we're still conceding 15 to 20 shots a game, that sort of thing. The defence hasn't been good for a couple of seasons. It's just we talk about papering over the cracks. He really did with double linings of wallpaper, really did.
I like the way you're getting into stats now. You've never really been one for numbers and stats, but you're starting to come into them a little bit now.
They tell sometimes, Geo, they tell a story.
When you've got 5 stats to back up one stat, right? I think that's when you're picking out one and there's nothing really to support that one stat. I think that's when you can dismiss it a little bit. But when there's a lot of them pointing in one direction, I think you're very naive if you don't think stats tell something. The one that I actually the running around thing doesn't really surprise me. Listen, it happened under Slav, it happened under David Moyes, despite what people think. Because when I contacted someone from Opta when we had Moyes in this whole, the players were running more under Moyes. I was watching games thinking, I'm not convinced. Watching the games, I was thinking, I'm not convinced. So when I contacted the guy from Opta, who's a West Ham fan, and said, listen, now he's a bit reluctant at first because he said, hang on a minute, people pay big money for this access. I said, mate, we've got a little YouTube channel. What money then we got? So he said, okay, I'll answer one question. So I simply said, do we run more under Moyes than we did under Bilic? And he came back and said, to answer your question, yes, we do. However, if you take into consideration red cards, because we got quite a few under Slav, so you take into consideration red cards, no, you do not. They do not run more under Moyes than did under Bilic. Because when I put it up, someone from West Ham Media contacted me and said, can you take that down, please, because it's deemed negative. I thought, well, not really, because no one believes it. But anyway, what concerned me in that article was teams counter-attacking, essentially. Basically, teams can attack West Ham quicker than anyone else in the league. To get from A to B, one end of the pitch to other, West Ham's the quickest team to go through. And I thought, it's not surprising, but it's quite damning that if we lose the ball within a few seconds, basically, all the stats says we are the easiest team in the league to play against right now. And Mark Weir says, if Noble, Rice and Snodgrass are covering their own jobs plus going that extra mile for others who aren't doing theirs, it must be frustrating for them. Neil from Down Under said Roberto has made history as the first visually challenged goalkeeper to play in the Premier League. Robert Bryant, I wonder if he's related to Mike. Mike's second name is Bryant. Robert Bryant says, how have we managed to assemble the slowest team in the Premier League? But there's nothing supporting Pellegrini. There's not much supporting the players.
No, I've got to say, I did my lunchtime video today, and you give something a title and you put it out there, and I was expecting some stick, which was, I basically said the owners have got to act now. Nothing. Nothing. No funny comments, anything. No disagreement. Nothing. So the tide.
You want funny?
Really.
You want to have funny comments or disagreements? Say you back Pellegrini, then you'll get plenty. C Forbes, I question his Pellegrini's desire, but he's a man with class and self-respect. He's a league winner and won't give up. That I agree with to an extent, but he's not come in from the street to start a new job. He's come in a year ago, and he probably thinks he's had a hard gig with you know the injury to Fabianski and Antonio arguably, and only getting 25 million to spend in the summer. Pellegrini's probably thinking, hang on a minute, I haven't really had a fair crack here, and he's getting beat up now with a lot of sticks. He'll know he's lost the support of the crowd, and when going is tough and you look at your employer for a little bit of support, actually he's getting told there's no money to spend in January, your mate's no longer doing transfers, and we're going to be linked to every manager under the sun now because that's what we do at West Ham. We undermine you. So I think he's probably a bit defeated, actually. And I just think I would not blame him. But you said you feel sorry for him. This is why I maybe feel a little bit sorry for him, because if I went into work every day and almost got not bullied by my employer, but certainly got made to feel a bit shit, and then came in on the 5th day and I wasn't feeling very motivated, and he turns around and goes, well, why are you not doing your job? I think, well, hang on a minute, why would I? I think Pellegrini's in that. Pellegrini knows his days are numbered. I just struggled to see him coming out fighting. The time to come out fighting was 2 games ago against Burnley. It's I don't know, it's just too late now. Fraser Prophet says, makes a good point here, something we've sort of covered and agreed with. He says that these problems all existed when we were winning games.
Yeah, well, absolutely, which is why I don't like it when people say, you know, if before the Tottenham game, a couple of people said, "Oh, if we win against Tottenham, this will all be forgotten. You won't be talking about this stuff." And I thought, no, actually, that's not right. You know, yeah, clearly, and your stats, they tell that story as well, Gio. You know, the stats of last season and what we've just discussed. So, yeah, these issues are there. It goes back to when it's all said and done, and once he's gone, and I think we all believe he is going. It's just a matter of when. When we analyse what has gone wrong, and I mean in the bigger picture, it probably will just be that Pellegrini had gone into retirement. The idea of getting a top level manager was probably a good one. They actually just picked the wrong one. They paid the money for a top level manager, but they got somebody who was topping up his last year of money before he retired back to Chile. Didn't expect it. Didn't expect the job, and we offered him. Not only did we try and entice him back, we enticed him back with the sort of money he was earning in China, and he probably thought, hold on, if I can earn that money in China or earn that money in England, you know, I speak English, I've worked there before. But his mind was probably already on the villa in Chile, if you know what I mean. And I think we might look back on it and think, did we miss the opportunity to get somebody who was younger with a bit of drive? And I'm quite sure. I don't. That's one thing I don't question with the board. I don't question their ambition in getting a manager. They paid the money for a top manager. They really did. And they backed him by bringing in his director of football and his whole coaching team, and even employed his son, as I understand it, to do scouting. They really did try and pay out for this guy. They just chose the wrong one. They went for. They didn't work out who they basically. You know, I'm not going to say the word because I do have a bit too much respect for him, but they've got one who was not at his best anymore, you know.
I think they also sort of the board rested on their laurels a little bit in the summer as well. I thought the season one went well from a board's perspective, comfortably finishing in 10th and stuff. I thought, oh well, we'll give him 25 million to spend in the summer. And I'm not saying Pellegrini's been shortchanged, but he was a little bit. And I don't know. Back to the live chat. Super Stubbsy said he's going to the Leicester match on 20th of December and he's not looking forward to it. Pretty sad, really. DJ Blokey, after watching everyone's views and opinions on the next manager, I'm even more confused over who I want in charge. There's so many fors and against for all of them. Zahid Ali says, I blame the manager, the players, as the board put in money and got what Pellegrini wanted, total spend of 100 million. Neil says, as for underperforming players, where has their own personal pride in the way they play gone, or the pride in the game that pays them so well and offers them a future we can only dream about? Chris says that Fabianski played every Premier League game last season, so it's terrible management pinning your hopes in your number one, played every single game again and bringing in a hopeless understudy. Robert just says that boys, our forward line cost 100 million. Moore says 150 million and we're relegation contenders. John Slater says Fornaz is a young kid with potential, but someone did say, I'm going to try if I can find him. I did that thing that you'd done when you're doing
it goes so quick, the chat, doesn't it?
It jumped to the bottom. It jumped to the bottom. I was scrolling nicely and pasting. It just jumped to the bottom. Jazza, has the signing of Fornaz been overlooked as potentially one of our worst ever for the price we paid?
Well, somebody else has Lee FR76 is early days of Fornals needs to be played in the right position. Well, the thing is with Fornals, we're past that point now. That now becomes an experiment. There can be no more experimentation. So if you think Fornals is a guy that plays in Lanzini's position, for instance, you can't even risk it. And Lanzini's vet, you can't even risk playing Fornals. Lanzini has to play because you know he can play in the Premier League. You saw it when Moyes came in; he got a tune out of him. Fornals is a risk. Once we get, if what the board are going to do is throw these next two games, it almost becomes, and I like what Michael said, we're closer, we're 5 points, gets us up there. I understand, we're not completely detached, even if we lose our next two. But you do then have to start winning all these games. And what you can't do is say, do you know what we'll do? We'll give Fornals a run of 10 games because then he'll get acclimatised to the Premier League and he'll become good. No, that has gone. If he was going to work out and he played his best position, he needs to go into a winning team. with all the players around him playing well and playing confidently, they would have pulled him through. Would have got acclimatised at the pace of the Premier League. That's gone now. We cannot even afford to play him. I'm sorry to say, as much as that might annoy people, there may well be a player in there. I suspect he's too slow. I've said that since the first time I saw him running, and I think that's the case now. I don't think he's going to come good, but we certainly can't risk it now. We need established people. That's why Antonio looks so good. We need more of them. I wouldn't be surprised to see whoever comes in to go in January and get a couple of hardened, established Premier League performers, or a comparable guy from the Championship or something.
I think we almost do have to risk it. I think we've got to do something different. I don't think we can keep doing the same thing we've been doing from the start of the season and expect different results. I think you've got to try something. Will it be, he said, potentially one of our worst ever for the price we paid? I think it would almost be one of the worst ever in terms of not really opening up the boys' potential. I mean, when you watched him in the under-23s tournament in the summer, he was superb. He really was superb. There's clearly a very gifted player there. He might never make it in the Premier League, but I'd like to find out. If he can make it in the Premier League, because at the minute we've not really. Do you know when he came on Saturday, he didn't really do much, but I tell you what, he was getting about the pitch and trying to put some tackles in and something. I thought, okay, there's something here. He did more than Anderson and Yarmolenko in terms of trying to win the ball back. He even put in a couple of slide tackles. Now, he's not a big boy, but I thought that's what I like even more about it. The fact he is quite small, he's not physically big, but he was still willing to put a slide tackle in and try and win the ball back. I thought, this is what I want to see. Some bollocks on the pitch. I thought he came with that on Saturday.
He's got it. I'll just say it while it's in my mind. At Oxford, when we were at Oxford, and the players are really, really embarrassed. You know how some of them sort of come to the halfway line, give a little clap and walk out. He actually was the only one in the whole team that walked all the way. He crossed the touchline and walked all the way up to the fans within touching distance, and literally gave his shirt to someone. The only player, the only representative of the club, and he went like this: "I'm sorry." That shows
desire. That shows I want to play for this shirt. That's what we want, though. We want to see that. How often have we seen Anderson shirk a challenge, get subbed off? He just trots off the pitch and whatever. He doesn't come over anywhere to say thanks for the support, cheerio. Sorry, I was a bit pished today. None of that. There's none of that. He's happy to hide. Fernandes at least shows something. He shows that he wants to. I genuinely believe Fernandes wants to be a success at West Ham. Now, he might want to be a success for Pellegrini because he brought him here, or he might want to be a success for, or maybe he just wants to be a successful footballer. Maybe he's one of the few now that actually cares about what he achieves in his career. Because this boy's 23 years of age. He's not young. This is a massive point in his career. He can't afford this transfer to be a failure because he's trying to get into the Spanish squad ahead of the Euros. Now, it doesn't look like it's going to happen. But when he came to West Ham, that would have been his dream. His dream would have been to get into the Spain squad for Euro 2020. I would actually rather see him against Chelsea than Felipe Anderson. Someone that's got a little bit of something. Someone that wants to achieve something at West Ham. He don't really had the opportunity yet. I've seen more for him on Saturday when he came on in terms of grit than I did from Yarmolenko or Felipe Anderson in the first half. Harry Pierce says, I'd like your take. I've seen many people write off Kovac. I think it's possible. We say the board weren't cheap. He isn't in his job. Also, he's done extremely well on a small budget in the past.
Sorry, I was watching the chat as well. I found it quite funny that the Bryants were trying to work out in the chat whether they were related or not, which was quite good. They're not. But it was nice to see them having a conversation to try and ascertain whether or not they were. It was Robert and Michael Bryant. Harry Pierce had actually he's messaged me a couple of really interesting stats actually during the week on Twitter. I've got to apologise, I've not really been on there very much at all due to election reasons because it does my head in. And there's some really good articles that people have been sending over, mate. A lot of people are mentioning Arteta in the chat. Geo as well, lots and lots of people, and a couple of people mentioned John Terry as well. Not sure how well that would go down. It's as I say, there's almost not a shred of support for Pellegrini now. It's not a case of whether we get someone, it's a case of who we get.
It's not just because of what we're seeing at West Ham. It's also because we know how the board work now. We now know everyone knows how the board works. When they try and pull something, we can see through it. Okay, we all know what's coming. We can see between the lines. And that's why it pisses us off, because they keep trying the same tricks, and it's like, well, hang on a minute. We know your tricks. We know what you're doing. Just leave it out. So we all know that Pellegrini's days are numbered now. We've almost all giving up. I think people are almost sort of accepting he's going to be here for another 2 games now. I think they're almost sucking the passion out of West Ham fans. If you were to sack Pellegrini tomorrow, I think you'd light a fire in a few West Ham fans. I think a lot of people go, right, come on, let's go now. Let's go get this new guy. Let's go turn up against Arsenal. Let's give this new manager a lift. Let's give him something to go on. Let's give him a good start at West Ham. But at the minute, you're almost sucking the enthusiasm out. The enthusiasm is at an all-time low for football, for football as well. Not just West Ham, but West Ham as well, okay? There's too many people saying they're sick and tired of it. It's not results. It's not about results. It's not about Pellegrini. It's not about the football. It's just everything. People are just sick of it, and they're just saying, I've not got any fight in me anymore. And every day that Pellegrini's still here, it's almost like a little bit more fight just gets sucked out of you. There's people saying, oh, we should protest about the board, and there's people replying like saying, I can't be arsed anymore, there's no point, I can't be bothered, we're done, we've had it. And I just think if you were to get rid of Pellegrini, you would just give the fans a little bit of hope. The season's still early. The season is still early. Everyone's taking points off of everyone right now. We've still got the FA Cup to play for in January, Give the fans something to believe in. Give us something. Show us that we can still go and get the FA Cup, or we're going to take it seriously. This season can still be a success, but it can still also be relegation. It just depends on what they want, because it's them that control it. Simple as that. I mean, to be fair, Lee's saying you didn't go in the 91-92 season. I mean, Lee, you're right, I didn't. I could not speak. I wouldn't have been very much good in 91-92. But for Kovac, I would be happy with it next summer, 2020. I wouldn't want to see him come in mid-season, because he's almost like a risk. He is a risk, and I think it's too risky at this point. I think it would be unfair on Kovac as well to come in and say, well, you're in a relegation battle, you've got to keep us up. He's thinking, hang on a minute, I don't even know who these players are. He won't know the West Ham squad. He'll know Sebastian Haller, and that's it. He won't know anyone else. I think the way they're going for a British-based manager or someone with Premier League experience is probably the correct thing to do short term. Okay, I could understand why they would want to bring in Houghton or Moyes between now and the end of the season, but I certainly would not want them for longer than the 8-month deal or whatever like that. That's when you go get your Kovac.
Yeah, but you can't expect them to take... if I was David Moyes and David Sullivan phoned me up after what happened, I would laugh and put the phone down. And also, you can't expect Chris Hughton to do that either. I think it's wrong to do it. Do you know what? If they could pull it off, then I would think, all right, fair enough. But I can understand Hughton saying, I'm not coming in for 6 months. You want me? I'll have the 3-year deal, and I'd like to see them try and sell that to the fans, because that just wouldn't happen. I don't think it's fair to keep doing it to everybody, but I understand what you're saying. You can't have a risk coming in, which is why we will get somebody like that. We will get a safe pair of hands.
If they want a safe pair of hands, they then got to get the checkbook out and go get a Dyche or a Eddie Howe. They've got to go get someone that is safe and also has a little bit of sparkle about them. You can't go get... You've always got 3. You've got the risk, you've got the safe boring one, which is Houghton and Moyes. Then you've got the people in the middle like Howe and Dyche, who actually, they're not risky, but they've got more than safety. They've got something in them. They might give you the cup run. Next year you could probably aspire for a top 10 and a cup run as well. Someone that you can see being here for more than 8 months, a year and 8 months or whatever, because Moyes and Houghton, you look at them and you think, oh no, this has got a year and a half written all over it at the most. You need to go get someone else. But the problem is the people in the middle cost money. Do you know why they cost money? Because they're already at clubs. Why are they already at clubs? Because they're damn good managers. People that are available tend not to be damn good managers. They tend to be unavailable for a reason. And if you're going to shop in the bargain basement, then you're going to have to expect tampered merchandise, aren't you? You're not going to get the good stuff, are you? You're going to get the broken biscuits. I mean, when we do a cup of tea, we don't sit with broken biscuits, do we? We get the hobnobs. We get the good stuff out. But anyway, we'll start wrapping this up. Put your last comments in there. We'll read out a few more comments and we'll start wrapping this one up. I try not to take questions, but people just put more questions than comments in the live chat, don't they? I
think people got to get used to the concept. This is Talk West Ham and Cup of Tea. This is Talk West Ham is your show. Cup of Tea is when we
our show.
Basically regurgitate all our opinions to you fine people, really. But mate, I'll tell you, we must, and in that, when we do that, it's. I'm not saying that name, Phil. Geo, did you know I got caught out in the other one with Isaac?
No.
Okay.
Isaac. Yeah. I know you did. You don't know what's even funnier about that, though.
What?
You should have remembered this because I told you about this and you forgot about it. Isaac.
Hunt.
Hunt. No. Just leave a gap. It's fine. As long as you leave a gap, it's fine. It's a bit like the trick. Say Alpha.
Alpha.
Kenny.
Any.
Body. Say it now. Say it.
Alpha. Anybody.
No, Kenny.
What?
Alpha. Kenny. Body.
Alpha Kenny Body. Oh, I said. Oh, okay. Very good.
But anyway, Isaac, JPWHUTV was doing a 1,000 subscriber giveaway. Isaac HUMT was a 1,000 subscriber.
Okay. Well, he's naughty, but we've also
he's
got one.
Brilliant.
Actually, comes up with some good points. But we got Phil in the chat, Phil Maccock, as I've been coming to call him, Phil Maccock. And I think he has posted this question, so we've got to do it on a cup of tea when we do it.
Okay.
Because I think he must have done it about 10 times. How optimistic are you in terms of longevity of our next manager? I have no faith in the owners picking the right man, even if the next appointment seems good at first sight. So that's something we're going to have to deal with on the cup of tea, certainly, because Phil Maccock keeps posting repeatedly.
Anyway, if there's any questions for a cup of tea, put them below, because I will refer back to this, and I've managed to work out how to get stuff on the software that we use now a bit more, so we can broaden our horizon. If you want to come on the next Talk West Ham, we need you guys to come on, okay? It's important that we get you guys to come on, so email us hammerschat@gmail.com. the link is in the description, or you can find us on Twitter, hammers_chat. The link is also in the description for that as well. Get in touch and say that you would like to come on. We're going to try and do it every week. We would like to do it weekly, but in order to do that, we need people that can come on. So get in touch and we'll try and do one next Sunday or Monday or Tuesday or something. We'll try and do one of those 3 nights. It depends on what we've got going on. But get in touch with us. Because there's anything you'd like to add before we disappear?
No. Been good fun, and I thought James and Michael spoke really well as well. So not everybody wants to show their face on video. You know what I'm saying? No. So it's a good opportunity for people just to phone in and give their opinions. So bring it on.
Fantastic. Thank you very much for listening. Thanks, a massive thank you again to James and Mike for calling in. Really good calls. We've been quite lucky. We've done 4 calls now. All 4 have been really good. So get involved. That's been Gonzo. I've been Geo. Been having a chat. Drop a like on the video if you enjoyed it. Subscribe to you around here. Get your comments in below, because next time we do a cup of tea, we'll be referring back to it. We've got plenty to talk about. Catch you in a bit. While you're here, don't forget to go on to Amazon Prime and check out the film by Canning Town Line. Link is in the description, including exclusive interviews with the old legends from the 80s. Check it out, it's only £1.99. Absolute bargain. Catch you in a bit.